Look around you. Everywhere you go, society tells us a very specific, beautiful, and highly curated story about love. You are supposed to grow up, find the one, get married, buy a house with a white picket fence, have 2 beautiful children, and stay passionately, unconditionally in love with that single person for the next 60 years of your life. We see it in Disney movies, we hear it in pop songs, and we read it in romance novels. It is the ultimate script for a successful human life. But what happens when reality hits? What happens when you catch yourself having a crush on a coworker? What happens when the intense passion you felt in your 20s turns into a feeling of living with a polite roommate? What happens when a marriage ends in divorce? Society tells you that you are broken. It tells you that you didn't try hard enough, that you lack moral discipline, or that you are simply a failure. But if this traditional family model is so deeply natural and biologically correct, why is it so incredibly hard? Why do nearly 50% of all marriages end in divorce? Why is cheating so overwhelmingly common across every single culture, religion, and geographic region on Earth? Are modern humans just inherently bad, selfish people? No, you aren't broken. You are just fighting against hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary biology. To understand why modern relationships are so painfully difficult, we have to travel back in time and uncover a massive, uncomfortable truth. Human beings are biologically terrible at strict, lifelong monogamy. Before we dive into the scandalous evolutionary science of human mating, I want to hear from you. Do you believe humans are biologically meant to be with only one person for their entire lives? Drop a ring emoji in the comments if you believe in strict, lifelong monogamy, or a broken heart emoji if you think it goes completely against our nature. Let's see what the community actually thinks. To understand why your brain struggles so much with the concept of forever, we have to fundamentally destroy the myth of the nuclear family. Today, we think it is perfectly normal for a mother, a father, and their children to live completely isolated in a private house or an apartment. But this setup is an incredibly new invention. It did not exist until the Industrial Revolution, just a few hundred years ago. For over 300,000 years before that, ancient humans lived in small, tightly knit hunter-gatherer tribes of about 50 to 150 people. In the Paleolithic world, trying to raise a child in a private, isolated family unit was an absolute, guaranteed death sentence. Survival on the ancient African savanna was a brutal, daily mathematical equation of calories and danger. If a prehistoric mother sprained her ankle, she couldn't gather food. If a prehistoric father was killed by a pack of cave lions, there was no life insurance policy to protect his kids. An isolated family would simply starve. Instead, humans survived through an evolutionary strategy called alloparenting. Children were not raised by 2 stressed-out parents locked in a suburban house. They were raised by the entire tribe. Aunts, uncles, grandmothers, older siblings, and even completely unrelated tribe members all shared the heavy biological burden of feeding, carrying, and protecting the children. The famous phrase, "it takes a village to raise a child," is not just a cute metaphor. It is a literal biological necessity. In this ancient environment, you did not need to depend on just one single romantic partner for your physical and emotional survival. The tribe was your family. The tribe was your safety net. But what about the biological wiring of romance itself? Even if we lived in tribes, aren't our bodies physically built to mate for life with one partner? Evolution is a brilliant designer, and it always leaves clues hidden in our anatomy. If you look at our closest primate relatives in the animal kingdom, you can accurately read their mating habits just by looking at the physical size and shape of their bodies. Take gorillas, for example. Gorillas live in a strict harem structure. One massive, dominant silverback male mates with a large group of females. Because the silverback fiercely fights off all other rival males, he has absolutely zero competition when it comes to the actual act of mating. Therefore, male gorillas have incredibly small testicles. They do not need to produce massive amounts of sperm because there is no microscopic competition happening inside the female. Furthermore, male gorillas are roughly twice the size of females, a trait called sexual dimorphism, which happens when males have to physically fight each other for access to mates. Now, let's look at chimpanzees. Chimpanzees live in large groups and are highly promiscuous. Everyone mates with everyone. Because a female chimpanzee might mate with multiple different males in a single afternoon, the males have to fiercely compete at a microscopic level. The male who produces the largest volume of sperm wins the evolutionary lottery and passes on his genes. Because of this intense sperm competition, male chimpanzees have massive testicles relative to their body size. And because they don't fight each other for exclusive access quite like gorillas do, male and female chimps are much closer in physical size. So, where do humans fall on this anatomical scale? We sit right in the murky, confusing middle. Human testicles are significantly larger than a gorilla's, indicating that throughout our evolutionary history, human females were mating with multiple partners, creating a need for sperm competition. However, our testicles are smaller than a chimpanzee's, meaning we weren't completely promiscuous all the time. Furthermore, human males are, on average, about 15% larger and physically stronger than human females. This moderate sexual dimorphism is universally linked to species where males compete for multiple females, rather than mating with just one. Biologically, anatomically, and historically, humans are simply not built for strict, exclusive, lifelong monogamy. We are built for what anthropologists call serial monogamy or mild polygamy. We are designed to form intense, passionate bonds, stay together for a specific period of time, and then move on. And this brings us to the most mind-blowing, uncomfortable, and fascinating scientific discovery of all: the 4-year itch. A renowned biological anthropologist named Helen Fisher wanted to understand if there was a natural expiration date on human romance. She looked at massive amounts of global divorce data from the United Nations, covering dozens of different countries, cultures, economic systems, and religions. She expected to find that divorces peaked at the famous 7-year itch. But she didn't. She found a shocking, universal pattern that transcended all cultural boundaries. Across the entire globe, divorces overwhelmingly peak exactly around the 4-year mark of a marriage. Why 4 years? Is it just a coincidence? Absolutely not. 4 years is exactly how long it takes to raise a human child through its most vulnerable, life-threatening stage. Think about human babies compared to other animals. When a baby horse is born, it can stand up and run within hours. But a human infant is born completely helpless. Because our brains are so massive and our pelvises grew narrower to allow us to walk upright, human babies have to be born essentially premature. They cannot walk, talk, or feed themselves for years. In a prehistoric hunter-gatherer tribe, a mother holding a newborn infant is incredibly vulnerable. She needs intense, dedicated support, extra food, and physical protection to survive childbirth and the grueling years of nursing. Evolution needed a way to force the father to stick around and protect them. Enter the chemistry of love. When two ancient humans met and fell in love, their brains were absolutely flooded with a powerful cocktail of binding chemicals. Dopamine gave them intense focus and euphoria. Norepinephrine made their hearts race. And most importantly, oxytocin and vasopressin created a deep, fierce bond of attachment. This intense chemical cocktail literally blinded them to other potential mates. It was an evolutionary superglue, forcing them to stay together to protect the baby. But around the age of 3 or 4, a major shift happens. The child is finally weaned off breast milk. They can walk on their own. They can follow instructions. They join the communal playgroup with the rest of the tribe's children, watched over by the grandmothers and aunts. The intense life-or-death need for the biological father's direct, exclusive protection significantly drops. And right on schedule, the parents' brain chemistry shifts. The dizzying rush of dopamine fades away. The oxytocin bond loosens. The biological contract is fulfilled. The ancient brain looks around the savannah and unconsciously says, "Okay, that child has survived the danger zone. Now let's seek out new genetic diversity. Let's find a new partner so our next child has a completely different set of immune system genes." This is exactly why the honeymoon phase ends. This is why the fiery passion you felt in year 1 turns into a lukewarm routine in year 4. It is not a moral failure. You did not do anything wrong. It is a prehistoric reproductive strategy playing out in your modern living room. So, this begs a massive question. If we are anatomically and chemically wired to be serial monogamists who change partners every few years, why on earth did we ever invent marriage? Why did society force us into this incredibly difficult box of strict, lifelong monogamy? The answer has absolutely nothing to do with romance. The answer is dirt. About 10 to 12,000 years ago, humanity went through the agricultural revolution. We stopped wandering the savannah as nomadic hunter-gatherers, and we started farming. We began to fence off plots of land, domesticate animals, and store surplus grain. For the very first time in human history, we had private property, wealth, and accumulated resources. This completely changed the rules of the human game. When an ancient farmer spent his entire life building up a wealthy, massive plot of land, he wanted to pass that land down to his biological sons when he died. But there was a huge problem. Before the invention of modern DNA testing, maternity was always obvious. You always knew who the mother of a child was. But paternity? Paternity was a guess. There was only one way a wealthy farmer could be absolutely 100% certain that the child inheriting his land was biologically his own. He had to tightly control the sexual behavior of the woman. Strict lifelong monogamy, the intense cultural obsession with female virginity, and the harsh, brutal punishments for infidelity were not invented by our biology. They were invented by economics. Marriage was not created as a romantic fairy tale about soulmates. Marriage was created as a strict legal and economic contract to protect real estate, ensure safe inheritance, and forge political alliances between powerful families. For thousands of years, marriage was a business deal. You married to combine farms, or to acquire a dowry, or to secure a trade route. Love had absolutely nothing to do with it. In fact, in many ancient cultures, if you married for love, you were considered foolish and irresponsible. Love was something you found outside of marriage, through affairs and mistresses. It wasn't until the 18th and 19th centuries, very recently in our history, that society decided to merge the concept of passionate romantic love with the economic institution of lifelong marriage. And that is why modern relationships are suffocating under an impossible burden. Renowned psychotherapist Esther Perel points out that today, we ask one single person to give us what an entire village used to provide. We expect our partner to be our best friend, our trusted confidant, our passionate lover, our financial co-pilot, our co-parent, and our therapist, all wrapped into one for 60 straight years. We are asking a biological system designed for 4-year serial monogamy to execute a 60-year economic contract of perfect fidelity. It is a massive evolutionary mismatch. So, does this mean cheating is okay? Does it mean marriage is a scam and you should just abandon your family? Absolutely not. We are not slaves to our biology. We override our ancient instincts all the time. Our ancient brains tell us to eat every single gram of sugar we can find, but we consciously choose to eat vegetables to stay healthy. What this science does mean is that we need to practice radical self-compassion. If you struggle with temptation, you are not a monster. If you feel the spark fading in your long-term relationship, your marriage isn't broken. If you have been through a painful divorce, you are not a failure. If a relationship lasts for 10 beautiful years and then naturally ends, we need to stop calling it a failed relationship. Biologically speaking, keeping two humans together for 10 years is an absolute stunning success. Lifelong monogamy is not an automatic, effortless biological default. It is a choice. It is a conscious, difficult, and incredibly beautiful choice that you have to wake up and make every single day. Love is not just a rush of prehistoric chemicals. Those chemicals will always fade. True love is looking at our messy, confusing, promiscuous evolutionary wiring, acknowledging how hard it is, and choosing to stay with your partner anyway. It is choosing to build a life together, not because your biology forces you to, but because you actually want to. If this deep dive completely shattered the way you view love and relationships, type the word choice in the comments below so I know who the real survivors are that made it to the very end of this 14-minute journey. I read every single one, and if you want to keep exploring the uncomfortable, fascinating truth about human biology, hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one.